Okay, this here is Frankie, and this is the first time I'm actually touching Frankie. This is, and Vinny is about to pop in the scene, and this is Vinny right here. Hey, buddy. And this is going to be their roadmap to success. Now, as you can see, I'm able to kind of pet him a little bit, and I can touch him, and he can be in my lap. But I was here for 3 hours, basically, before we started to do this. And I'm a professional, so don't be frustrated if your guest takes them a little bit longer before they feel comfortable and they can achieve this result. But I like to show my clients what the dog is capable of doing, and this is a good example of that. Now, in this case, I think what's going on is I think the Guardians already got started. They started putting in some rules and structure in place before the session because he's bitten a couple kids. And a couple bites, and one of them did draw blood. Now, in his case, I think he's doing this just because he's so insecure, and so there's some things that we can do to build up his self-esteem. I think he's insecure, and he also thinks he's in charge, and he's a quick twitch dog, and he probably had some baggage before we even brought him home. So, you're going to come up too, huh, buddy? So what we want to do is make sure that he has his exercise depleted first. So I went over a number of creative ways to deplete excess energy. So I showed the laser. He really liked, Vinny liked chasing the laser. Frankie didn't, but I think Frankie was so petrified at the time of a new person being here that he wasn't ready to run for it. He might run for it as well. So make it kind of a lap, and mind the safeguards that I mentioned, went over with you guys earlier. But basically, throwing the treats up and down the stairs, playing fetch, having him chase the laser. One other one we didn't talk about is something we call scent training, scent games. And scent games basically is what when we basically allow the dog to maybe put the dog outside, hide a couple treats in the room, and have him come in and find them with his nose. Using the nose is a very draining exercise for dogs. It can be physically draining even though they're not actually doing anything that physical. So the idea is to start that exercise journal, exercise them throughout the day, so that way you can kind of identify how much exercise each dog needs to be in a position to succeed. That's a very cute look you got going there, buddy. All right, so exercise is going to solve the problems, but this makes solving the problems easier. I also talked about rules and structure, which the Guardians had already started to incorporate before I came over for the session. So some of the extra rules I went over: not being allowed in the furniture. We're just doing this because it looks better if we have a dog in this parting shot. But not letting the dogs in the furniture for at least 30 days, or as long as the problem's still going on. And then after that, furniture only with an invitation and only for good behavior. So if the dog is up here, he starts barking, we're going to ask the dog to get down. Now I showed the Guardians how to ask the dog to get down. I just basically touch the nose with a treat, throw it on the ground. When the dog jumps down and licks it up, we would say the word off. I also teach the dog to leave each room, and I call it out, where I basically take the, sorry buddy, where I take a treat like this, split it in half, and I throw it, if I'm in the room, in the doorway, I throw it outside the room. The dog goes out and licks it up. I say the word out. Do the same thing with the kitchen and everywhere in the house that you want him to leave. And then it would be furniture with an invitation and only for good behavior. And it's a one-time pass. So the dog gets down and comes back, he would need another invitation. Dogs shouldn't be in this box around the two couches when any humans are eating food here. Shouldn't be allowed in the kitchen when we're preparing food. Has to sit at the doors before we open the door, and tell them to sit once. If they don't sit within about 3 seconds, walk away, sit down somewhere, make sure you're seated, wait 1 minute, and then go back to give them another opportunity. Next time, walk away for 2 minutes, then for 4 minutes, then 8 minutes. Keep on doubling like the time until the dog sits when you go over there. Now, for establishing the boundary here in the kitchen, I shared the escalating consequences I used to go over to disagree with unwanted actions and behaviors. But we can also do a dress rehearsal. So mom can microwave a piece of bacon or something along those lines. Hey, buddy, you're being a little bit nosy. And then basically have the kids, that's all right. And this is helpful for Frankie. But then we can have the kids eating or pretending like they're eating the bacon. And then mom or the kids are using those escalating consequences to move the dogs back every time they break the invisible boundary. And once the dogs eventually sit or lie down beyond the boundary, then we can actually put away the bacon and the kids get their actual snack. Same thing with the kitchen, and simulate like you're cooking. And once the dog stops protesting trying to come in, then you start your actual cooking. So we help the dog put them in a position to succeed. And remember, anytime your dogs don't behave the way you want in a situation, recreate that situation in the easiest capacity possible and help the dog practice each step, one step at a time. And don't move to the next step until you're comfortable with that first step. And the dog knows how to perform that first step. And once you've done all the individual steps, then have the dog repeat all the steps in a row, again in the easiest capacity possible, then gradually, he says he wants more bully sticks. Then gradually you make it more and more challenging until you get back to the real world situation the dog failed, but now the dog knows how you want them to behave. Now I also went over my petting with a purpose and my passive training methods with the dogs. Petting with a purpose is initiating the action. So if the dog comes up and paws me or nudges me or kisses me, and instead of giving him attention for doing those things, I give him a counter order, tell him to sit or lay down. And when he sits, I pet him under his chin and I say just the word sit. And then I can pet him as long as I want. Remember to use the word watchword of paycheck. If the dog comes in and somebody sees that I'm petting him and he's standing, they say paycheck, I stop petting him. And I say, Vinny, sit. And then I pet him after that, and I say the word sit and only the word sit. Yes, I know, you're a lover. You're a lover. I also talked about passive training. Passive training is just waiting for the dog to voluntarily offer you the behavior you want. So if every time, come on, buddy. I don't think Frankie's going to like that if you get too rowdy when he's on my lap. But basically, every time that Frankie comes, you pet him and say the word come. Every time he sits, pet him and say the word sit. Every time he goes to the dog bed, say the word Hilton, or whatever the name of that other dog bed is. Now, also, don't correct or disagree with the dogs anytime that they growl. Growling is really the antithesis of aggression. The growl is saying, I'm uncomfortable with what you're doing. And yes, I know you're going for the treats. You're being very sly, but no, you can't have those. We want the dog, if the dog growls at something, we want to evaluate our environment. Is there something that it's appropriate for the dog to be scared of? And if it is, let's increase the distance between the dog and whatever it feels scared of so the dog sees the human is taking care of things as opposed to asking the dog to handle it on its own. I think these dogs, because of the lack of rules, have got the impression they're in charge of protecting their humans, but the humans don't listen to them. That stresses them out even more, and I think it's just become a vicious cycle. And Frankie already came with some issues, and it's just been amplified. Petting with a purpose and passive training are going to be great ways for the dogs to start to emulate or offer you desired actions and behaviors. Remember, a lot of us train our dogs to misbehave because stealing remote control or the wooden spoon, that's a great way to get my attention. Sitting in front of me doesn't get anything. Well, now when the dog does prepay for sitting, we're going to reach over and pet it and say sit. Or if it comes to us, we're going to pet it and say come. And the more that we pet these dogs with a purpose or reward desired behaviors through passive training, the more the dogs are going to want to do those things. Now, start the exercise journal. I talked about exercise early on, but start that exercise journal, write down the times and write a column for each dog and how many up downs on the stairs, how many revolutions with the laser, how many fetches or whatever it was, until you get up to the point where, and then grade each day until each dog gets a letter A grade for the day. Now we know how much exercise we need that dog to get. Now also, we can put him in a position to succeed. I'm sorry, buddy. So before we have kids come over, we throw the up downs on the stairs and give them about 20 minutes before the kids are going to walk through the door. So that way when the friend comes over, the dogs will deplete that excess energy. And also if we write down what's going on and there is an outburst or is there something that's going on, we write down that in the journal as well. And we start to notice, hey, every time it's longer than this period of time, this is when he gets cranky. Or if it's late in the day, he gets cranky. And so we start seeing trends. Yes, I know, buddy. And then we can help them understand what's going on. Now, I talked in the video above about the guardian who's filming this walking Frankie on a daily basis. I would love to see a walk in the morning, a walk in the evening, before work and after work. And it's really going to help him have a good bonding experience. Also, the dogs are in the kennel for a lot longer than I like. Dogs will start getting cortisol released in their blood if they're in the kennel for longer than 4 hours. Now, these dogs aren't destroying things, so I might see if there's a room that we can lead them and we can kind of close the doors to the room and the dogs can practice being in that room by themselves and do it at first when the humans are there. So the dogs get practice being in that particular room. Remove all temptation, anything that they might destroy. It'd be nice if we could actually leave these dogs out. If they're not destroying things or having accidents, if we could do that, that way they're free. It's going to be less stressful for them. And if you do have a burglar or a peeping Tom, they can go and bark at him and yell at him and let him know what's going on. Are you going to lay down or are you going to try to get away? I think you're trying to get away. But I mean, he can if he wants. I'm not restraining him. And the whole point of this, yes, you're being shovey, is I wanted to show the guardians what is possible. Now, the guardian who's filming this has done nothing wrong with this dog. He's probably going, this SOB comes in and the dog is sitting on his lap taking treats. He won't do that for me. But again, I do this for a living. And so there's nothing wrong with that, and just go at the slower pace that I mentioned above. And I'm guessing the guardian probably has gone out of his way to try to get the dog to come over and pet him or initiate the contact. Again, let him kind of do it on its own. The walks, the feeding, and the catching are all going to go a long ways towards helping. Now, one last little thing. Dogs, just like us, feel more confident the more skills or attributes that they have. So if I graduate from college, I have a little party and celebrate that because I put a lot of work and time and effort in it and I passed. Well, that helps the dog, me feel better about myself. It's pride, self-esteem, whatever you want to call it. Dogs are the same sort of thing. How many commands do they know?
Probably 10.
Between the two of them?
Total. They each probably know 10.
Okay. So, well, that's actually a good amount. I was thinking it was probably a lot less for Frankie. But is it just for you? Or does he will do it for anybody?
He listens to Matt pretty well as far as like the sit, stay, down.
So what you might want to do is just go to YouTube and find some really easy dog tricks. I mean, you can do one as easy as just teaching the dog to walk in a circle. You just hold the dog a treat here, the dog follows it, and just lead it around, and then when it gets a full circle, give it the treat and say tornado or hurricane is the word I use. Super easy. And then the dog starts to get fixated on something. You say hurricane, he does a circle, and he gets a treat. The more skills that we can teach the dog, the more their self-esteem is going to go up. Also, if you, the guardians who are filming this, could actually teach him some tricks, that's going to really help him see you in a different light because you're now rewarding me and you're associated with this boost of self-esteem that I have. All right, and did I forget anything? Make sure you're eating before you feed the dogs. Again, all you have to do is eat 5 or more bites, and I would feed him first and him next, and I would use passive training. So maybe you would call him Zio's, and we call him La Casa if we're going with the pizza theme. And so whatever your favorite meal is or whatever it is, come up with those fun command words. Oh, and last thing, make sure you come up with a list of command words and try to come up with fun command words for these new commands. I could say roll over, but when I want my dogs to roll over, I say stunt dog, and they roll over, and people laugh. So coming up with those fun command words will really help, especially in this situation. Now, if you have any questions or problems after the session, please let me know. If I don't hear from you, I assume that means everything's going great. Texting is the fastest way to reach me. Are you going to lay down or are you going to try to get up? I think you're going to try to get up. It's like, I'm out of here. All right, well, that was Frankie. This is Vinny, and this is the roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.